Hi. First, I would like to thank you for following my blog. I've had a lot of fun writing it, and I've had several interesting revelations concerning intercultural communication. Now, today, I would like to share some of these with you to sort of sum up what I have learned this past semester. Now, in my first blog, I philosophized a bit about cultural imperialism, which is basically the phenomenon where you force your culture upon someone else. And I wrote that I found it to be a very pejorative phenomenon because people always seem to see it as very negative. They always saw it as a threat because they couldn't let go of their culture. But in essence, I believe almost all forms of cultural imperialism have been exerted with very good purposes. People believed their culture was somehow superior to others, and they wanted the rest of the world to join it because they thought it would make them happy too, the rest of the world. However, since they felt so threatened by it, it almost always ended in violence. For instance, the Second World War, the Vietnam War. Huh? Now, this was a very interesting introduction to the course, and I'm glad I chose this to philosophize about on my very first blog. In my second blog, I wrote about high and low context cultures, which I also find very fascinating. Specifically in this part, I learned a lot about the way I look at communication. It is true that there is always more formal and informal communication, but it was very interesting learning where formal actually became informal and the other way around. Now it's quite fascinating to learn about human behavior and all these rules we have set for ourselves. For instance, we are completely different when we are in the presence of friends and family than in class or church or city hall, for example. However, as I always think very hard about these things, I was recently thinking about how we always behave different inside our circle of friends, depending on which friend we are talking to. Now, there are friends, for instance, with whom I mostly talk about music and bands and festivals, and there are other friends with whom I mostly talk about sports and school. And I enjoy this difference in conversational topics because these are mostly based on the similarities we have with these friends. However, if you really think about it, you are always taking on a certain role when you are talking to someone. If I don't agree with something, for instance, I rarely really go into it, rather besides just saying, well, I don't agree, I have a different opinion. So in that sense, can we really be ourselves when we are near friends? Or are we really only ourselves when we are alone? Now these are all very cool thoughts and theories that have popped into my head. Then I would like to close this video blog by talking a bit about my latest and probably final blog. As you have probably read, I focus on Albert Hofmann's communicational model. I already knew about Mr. Hoffman and I knew about his scientific discoveries. I had watched several documentaries about him, but I never knew he was also active in the field of communication. He has created a very basic communicational model, which he has based on the earlier models made by David Pinto and Geert Hofstede, for instance. Now, this model basically states that, when engaging in conversation with someone, we must first acknowledge each other's similarities, and secondly, acknowledge each other's differences. And to me, it really doesn't get any more simple than that. And I believe that is what we need right now. We don't need a very complicated plan on how to deal with each other. We just need to think about what we are doing and maybe have a very easy one or two step plan to point us in the right direction. I am very impressed by him and what he has achieved. I mean, how many people can say they have invented methods of dealing with and possibly curing strange illnesses such as schizophrenia and cluster headaches, but have also made such an incredible contribution to the field of communication? Now, this is all very impressive to me. So I'll close this video blog right now. Thank you very much for watching and reading, and maybe I'll see you next time.